During the 1929 stock market crash, the volume of selling was so intense that the ticker tape machines tasked with reporting trades were relaying prices that were hours behind where transactions were taking place on the floor. You knew prices were collapsing, but you didn't know quite how much, so if you needed to sell, you sent your order and prayed. On Black Monday, 1987, it happened again. The Dow fell over 20%. Traders had to transact blind. By the 21st century, things had improved. The digitization of the index increased efficiency, but it wasn't invincible. In 2010, during the flash crash, quoted prices ran several seconds behind where they were on the exchange. In an environment full of high-frequency traders, this was a disaster. Funds recognized the lag and stopped trading altogether. This created a liquidity vacuum where people were selling at the market and there was no market bid to hit. Major companies traded down to 1 cent. Then, on October 24th, 2025, brokerages throughout the country ran behind by 96 hours. Not on the whole market, but on a single microcap stock. I know because it happened to me. So, this one's obviously going to be different from the standard video, but I thought it was something interesting, and I'd been holding off on other stuff while I waited for this to get resolved, and eventually it got to the point where it's taking too long, and so I just wanted to put it out there. Sorry the camera quality is garbage. We'll figure out if I'm going to keep most of this on me or I'm going to add stuff over it. So anyway, here's the deal. I was interested in a stock, QT Imaging, and primarily their warrants. Why? That's a different reason. I mean, I could make a video about it, but this historically has not been a channel where we talked about, buy this now, sell this, whatever. It's relevant in that it came public as a SPAC. It had had some trouble like a lot of them did. It got delisted. It was trading on OTC. And now on this day in October, they're going to do a reverse split because they've kind of stabilized and they want to get back listed on the NASDAQ. So sometimes there's kind of funny business that goes on with a reverse split and these de-SPACs that have low float and it can squeeze one way or another. So it was on my radar that this reverse split was going to be happening. And just to make sure everyone knows, right, a normal split is like you have one share, the company's shares have been going up, they want the price to be slightly cheaper, so instead, they cut the price in half and give you two. Reverse just means, usually that prices have fallen a lot and they're going to take away a portion of your shares, but each of your shares will become proportionally more valuable, right? So you're not really gaining or losing anything. If you had a pizza and it was 6 slices and now it's 12 slices, you have the same pizza, it's just a different number of parts. So the split is supposed to take place 4:01 p.m. October 24th. So that Friday, the next day, I'm like, oh, let's see, maybe this thing will take off, and if it does, I'll decide what I'm going to do with my warrants position. I'm not a professional at this, so I'm at work, so I just check in when I can check in. And probably around 9:45 or 10, I look at it, and shares had closed the prior day around $2 per share. So in theory, they should be around 6, right? If you're just going to say, well, they should triple in value because you now have 1/3 of the shares. But when I looked at it, share price, instead of being 6, was basically high 2s, low 3s. And I thought, well, something is wrong here. I'm not going to do anything yet, but clearly this doesn't make any sense. So I go on StockTwits. I try to see if there's anyone saying anything on there. It's not an obviously heavily covered name in OTC microcap, but there's someone on there going, oh, they must have went 1 for 2 instead of 1 for 3 at the last minute. And so that's why, instead of should have been 6, it should be 4. And then it's declined to 3. And that's like a drop, but it's in the ballpark. So this makes sense, but I don't know who this guy is. I don't trust him. So I go to the SEC website, type in QTI, go to the filing. There's nothing since the after hours the day before that says, no, this is becoming effective basically right now, 3 for 1, 4:01 p.m. on Thursday. So I think maybe people just don't know what's happening. So I probably should buy this. And it, by the way, at this point is trading like super choppy. Like we're talking, 20, 30 cent jumps in between each trade, which on something that's only trading at like $3 is preposterous. So I put in a bid probably 10% below market, check back in later, it's been hit, and I'm like, oh great, it's been hit. I think I got in at 350, something like that, for 1,000 shares. And it's starting to move towards 4, and I'm like, oh great, I'm a genius. It's and this was just disruptive nonsense, but it'll get back to 6, and I'm gonna make a quick $2,000. This is awesome. I actually put in another bid at that point, even further down, because those big jumps. I was like, listen, maybe I'll get lucky and I'll get something like super ridiculous by some guy trading that doesn't realize a split happened. I get that too later, although when I find out I get it, price is actually way below where I set that, so I'm like panicking, and I'm just like, actually, I'm probably an idiot. It probably was 1 for 2. I just don't know anything. The SEC was behind. Now I have 2,000 shares. This might not be good. About 2:30 that day, a press release comes out, right, in intermarket hours from QTI that basically says, hey guys, like, this split is official. We don't know really what's going on. I felt good about that, obviously, and other people in the market did too, because from that point forward, shares basically drifted up until they closed somewhere in the ballpark of 6. So I'm feeling great. It's then the weekend. I'm going to decide, should I just flip these? Should I let it ride, since I am interested in the company because of the warrant thing. So it is a decent company. Tuesday, I logged back in at some point during the day, and instead of having 2,000 shares, which is what I bought, I have 667 shares. I think, oh wow, they messed up and they applied this split to my shares. I got to get on this. Mistakes happen. I've called Etrade before and they've just been like, okay, and then they fix things. I tried to do it via chat. The guy, basically assumes that I don't know how splits work. Went nowhere. Fine. That's the first line of defense for customer support. I call Etrade. This guy is looking at my account, and he's like, a lot of long pauses and being like, this is super messed up, but I see what you're saying. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to write you an email, from my personal account. Great. I feel good. This is going to get taken care of. I'm actually worried at this point that maybe something happened and they're just going to reverse all the trades, which I thought was the worst case scenario. I thought, well, they realized something messed up happened. They're going to, halt trading. They're going to reverse everything that went on. At this point, I don't know why they would do that, but that's like my one fear. Let's see. I've got an email from my buddy. So Brian writes to me, no, the trades were good. We just need to see the correct number of shares displayed. I will update you when I know more. Things sound good. At the same time, I go and check in various social media sites to see, did this happen to anyone else? Is it just me? I'm hoping it's just me, because if it's everyone else, I'm like, something widespread that the company did could have messed things up, and then it could be this whole mess with everyone pointing fingers and shareholders caught in the middle. There are people who are saying, check your account. There's a guy on StockTwist. There's a guy on Yahoo message boards. There's a guy who I found after the fact on Reddit, right? This isn't a heavily covered stock, but it's clearly it's more than just me at this point. But I feel good because a little bit later I find out that there are brokerages that got it right. So this means it can't just be something that QT Imaging messed up, in their filing, that caused everyone to do the wrong thing. So if we're just calling people out now, I know, or I at least hearsay, that companies who got this right and caused no one any problems, IBKR, or Interactive Brokers, and Schwab. People who got this wrong include Morgan Stanley Etrade, who is currently still my broker, although we'll see, and Fidelity. If some people got it right, I'm sure everyone will get it right at this point. But time is passing, and I check back in with Brian. Brian says, oh, these things can take up to 2 weeks. Sit tight. We're going to fix it. Fine. 2 weeks come. I write to Brian, still investigating. Some of the other guys that I'm assuming probably had more money in this than me, are filling me in on where they're getting to when they're calling in and trying to climb the chain. As I'm communicating with these other investors whose accounts are messed up, I kind of get a picture of what seems to have happened here. And it is not great. A normal trader, investor thinks like stocks have a ticker, but underlying that ticker is a QSIP, it's called. Committee on Uniform Security Identification Procedures. Basically, it was like a numbering system that got brought in to help digitize markets and make settlement more efficient. Here's the deal. When stock splits, the post-split security will have a new QSIP. For whatever reason, in the instance of this split, the split went effective, according to the company, according to the SEC, 4:01 p.m. Thursday. But the QSIP didn't change over until after hours Monday. That gives us Thursday to Friday, Friday to Saturday, Saturday to Sunday, Sunday to Monday. Obviously, there's no trading on the weekend, but 96 hours where on these certain brokerages, you were typing in this ticker symbol, and what you were getting were shares that you thought were post-split, but according to the QSIP, were pre-split. And obviously, this is an impossible thing for an investor to know. So the broker's got to be on the hook for this. But as we sit here, 3 months after that date, I don't have my shares back. I have 667 shares instead of 2,000 shares. QTI is trading somewhere in the neighborhood of $6. So that's not quite 10,000, but it's traded up to 7. So I think, honesty in thumbnail titles, I'm at least in the ballpark. But here's how messed up this situation is. Think about this. Okay, I bought shares. I had shares disappear. The people who essentially, and you may think, okay, I'm not necessarily the good guy in this situation, right? Because I realized the split was messed up, right? I wasn't buying these shares because, I thought QTI became a better investment one day or the other. I was buying shares because clearly the market had missed something about this. So there's, poor guys that didn't realize the split was happening that are selling me their shares. So think about their accounts. They say, for the sake of numbers, have 1,000 shares. They go into their brokerage account Friday. They still see that they have 1,000 shares, and they see that the price yesterday was $2 and the price today is $3, and they go, man, price is up 50%. I don't see any news. Let's just take this gain and be happy about it. So they sell 1,000 shares. On Monday, what happens to them? On Monday, they have gone short 667 shares in addition to selling their 333 shares that they actually had, that they're actually selling 50% down, since they're selling something for $3 that was really worth $6. Plus, they went short 50% down on something that closed back up, from 3, that closed at 6. So they're down 100% on a short position, and they sold a long position thinking they had a 50% gain for a 50% loss. That's a nightmare. But here's the thing. Those people are also still fucked up, just like my account is, which is impossible. If my account is messed up, it should be making those people's accounts whole, because they're saying that actually my shares were pre-split, which means those people's shares that they sold should also be pre-split. So this doesn't make any sense. Here's what this looks like on a chart. It's ridiculous. Okay, these are two charts of basically the same time period, right, of the QTI stock. These obviously should be the same. You can't, look at the, do you notice I can't even talk. Notice the difference here. You have, a steady state stock, all of a sudden spikes way up, and you have a steady one that spikes way down. These should be the same. And so I bought on that down spike, and I now got the price as though I bought on the up spike. This doesn't make any sense. Make this make sense. These two charts can't be of the same thing, and yet they are in the year 2025. Anyways, the problem is, what am I going to do? I can't sue Morgan Stanley, which is like a $200-300 billion company, for $8,000 to $10,000. This is obviously impossible. I filed a SEC complaint. I filed a FINRA complaint when I learned that's probably the right organization. I got a auto response last week finally from Etrade acknowledging the receipt of some, I don't know which of those complaints, but one of them. So at least they've, heard about it. But it's ridiculous. And I've heard through some of these social media guys that there have been some brokerages who messed up, who have just made their people whole. I think what's happening is there's some sad sack employee at Etrade whose boss is telling him, hey, go to the market makers, tell them they need to reverse this, because the QSIP was mismatched with the security. And the market makers like Citadel is turning around that sad guy and going, this is your problem, not our problem. You fix it with your own money, which they should do because they're a $300 billion company. And the total value of people who've been screwed on this trade is, you can look at the volume. If 100% of shares that traded Friday and Monday were all through the brokerages that messed up, which we know they're not, you'd probably be, less than $1 million. Just write the check. If they lose my account and a dozen other people's accounts over the lifetime of our accounts, it's probably worth it to just keep us happy anyways. Instead, what are they gonna? They're gonna hope that we just go away? I mean, and they might be right. I don't know how to get involved in a class action, but even then, say we're talking about $200,000 total to sue these guys. They probably make it take 3 years. It probably costs $1 million to sue them. So, this is why I think I'm totally justified in this title, and I hope that this goes viral enough to get me some sort of cease and desist order from them for using the word steal in the subject, because they stole these shares from me. I mean, I don't know how else you can look at it. Like, I'm not supposed to know what the QSIP is on the equity I'm trading. That's insane. It's time. I mean, it's time for E-Trade Morgan Stanley to make this right. I feel like I'm one of those insane guys from the Bed Bath & Beyond saga talking about getting shares canceled or whatever, except I know I'm right and that those guys were crazy. I'm not crazy. I had shares just disappear because my broker messed up. Like, fix it. Thanks for watching, guys.